Hey everybody, Jared here in the Freedman Center for Digital Scholarship, and today we are going to learn to scan an advanced technique. We're going to learn to scan transparent media that is larger than a 35 millimeter slide or 35 millimeter negative. These are medium format pieces of film. Now, this is not easy, and if you're going to do this, you have to be patient, you have to follow the directions, and you've got to be very gentle with the equipment. And if you're prepared to do that, it will work. If you're not prepared to do that, please don't do that. And I say that because you could really leave the equipment messed up for the next person, and we try to avoid that. If when you're going through this process, something doesn't fit right or there's a question, make sure to email us at freedmancenter@case.edu and we will come down and fix the equipment. But please, please, please try to leave things in as good of a state as you possibly can. The reason I'm emphasizing this is that this stuff is really expensive, and most of the time you're not going to see it out in the public. So the fact that we're sort of letting you do it on your own is something that we're experimenting with, and we're hoping that you'll be able to do this without any difficulty. But it does require for you to kind of follow along to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. Now, certain types of medium format films will work no problem. Larger format medium format films, or larger format films like an X-ray, this actually may not scan the way you want it to because we only can go so far, and I'll explain along the way. But please understand there's a reason this tutorial is long, and that generally these types of things aren't just left out in the public for people to be able to play with. Not the films, I mean the equipment. Before we even get to the films, let's talk about film itself. Now, these are my throwaway demo pieces, so I'm holding them with my bare hands. If you're going to be handling film, please, please, please use nitrile gloves. Those are the only types of gloves I would have you working with. Do not use cotton gloves. Cotton gloves will actually scratch, cause dust, or more likely to ruin these than not. We don't provide any cleaning materials for these, and there are special cleaning materials for films if you're going to try to clean off a piece of film. So don't just think, you're not going to spray Windex on it or something like that, or just use water. You can get special cleaning supplies for that. We can't provide those for you. They're actually like flammable and dangerous, but you can do this. So again, I'm holding them with my bare hands because these are our throwaway pieces. You should probably use nitrile gloves. You know what nitrile gloves are, but please, please, please do not use gardening gloves. Do not use cotton gloves. Cotton gloves are not recommended for handling films. Trust me on this. All right, so why is this so confusing? Well, we're going to be using one of the larger Epson flatbed scanners. And to do that, we need to do three things. The first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to remove a piece that hides the backlight on the Epson scanner. The second thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to use this bag full of accessories. Now, don't worry, the bag of accessories is attached to the computer, and hopefully the person before you left the accessories there, and hopefully you're going to be a good citizen and put the accessories back as well. If you find there are accessories missing that were supposed to be in here, please email freedmancenter@case.edu. We'll do the best we can in replacing them, but these things are getting harder and harder to find, so we're actually hoping that you'll be a good citizen and take care of the equipment. The first thing that we're going to need is this piece, which is called the transparency guide. The transparency guide is going to make it so that the scanner can self-calibrate, and I'll show you where this goes. The second thing we're going to need is either this for 120 or 220, or this for 4x5 pieces of transparency, and we'll use these to actually lay them on the glass without laying the film directly on the glass. Well, this doesn't fit in there, and that's the problem. Films like this we're going to have to lay directly on the glass, and you'll end up getting certain things called Newton's rings. It's never perfect unless you have something that can hold it just right. We've had people who are trying to do these before actually try to build their own carriers out of mat board, and if you've got a particular size that you want, you can do that. Otherwise, you just have to lay it against the glass, and it is what it is. We can only go so far with all of our equipment. So let's come over here and take a look at the mechanics of the Epson flatbed scanner and how we're going to make sure we take care of it. All right, so here we are. This is the Epson 10,000 XL. There's another one on the other station that is the 11,000 XL as well. They both work the same way. When you lift it up, you're going to see this backing piece here, and you can see it's a little worse for wear, but you'll notice that there's a lip that faces you and it's a straight edge towards the bottom. This backing piece is easily removable by lifting it straight up and then straight down, and you'll see that there are tabs. 1 tab, 2 tab, and then 3 tab, 4 tab. The idea is that this piece is always going to be closest to you or towards the top. So once you move that out, you put it towards the side, and you're going to come over here and you're going to see, oh, there's another piece of glass, and that's great. Now you can't just put this down on the bed and expect it to scan, and the reason is we need to make sure that it self-calibrates. So we take this piece of plastic and we're going to put it in the 2 little holes up top, and it'll pop right into place. 1, 2, and what that does is it shows you a new corner. So this strip right here is going to have to remain clear at all times. And this way, when it looks up, it's going to view this as its own self-calibration strip. Now the scanner is going to look upwards. So if you're looking at the transparency and you see over here it says post reduction, that means we're going to put this down so that the scanner looks up and it sees it the right way. So it's always the wrong way up and the right way down. So I could put it in there like that and be done with it. And that's normally how you do with a large item. But we're going to do this part last. What we're going to do is we're going to work with these other formats first. Let's start off with your standard 120, 220 film. And I'm going to use that with a film holder. All right, so here's the film holder. I come over here and I can pop it open. And again, it just pops open and it pops closed. And then I will take my film. And like before, I want to make sure that I see which is the front. So if it looks the normal way, so I'm going to put it face down, and you'll see that there's a little strip where it's going to hold the edges of it. And this way it's holding it up over space, and then I can pop it into place. Boom. Then I can come over here and I can place it where the corner goes over here to the corner. Again, it leaves this free, and I can put this here, and then when I put this down, I'll be able to scan it. Let's do it for the other one as well. I'll put this one aside for now, and I'll grab the other film holder. Now, this is the 4x5 film holder, and again, pops open like this. Now you'll notice that this image here doesn't actually fit in there, but it does go this way. And again, yes, I have it pointed the correct way. So I kind of let it float in the lip there, just perfect, like that. And then I snap it into place. And again, I would be able to come over here like this and just do that. Don't worry about where it's located on the scanning bed. That doesn't make a difference, but I will tell you that horizontal is slower than vertical. Always scan it so that it goes this, since it's going this way, the shorter the distance, the better. If you do it this way, it'll have to go all the way this way, which means it'll take longer period of time. All right, so let's put this over here. And again, let me go back to my 120, 220, put it down, close the bed, and now we're ready to go and look at the software. All right, let's come over here to Epson Scan. And again, I want to make sure I choose the right scanner. In this case, it's the 10,000 XL. On the other one, it would be the 11,000 XL. And I click on OK. And it brings up the software. Now you'll notice it brings that up in Pro mode. It must be in Pro mode for this to work. And we default all of our computers to have the Epson software be in Pro mode. At this point, I want to remind you that, of course, you've checked out a key, otherwise you wouldn't be on the computer, and you've gone to the D drive and you've made a folder with your case network ID to make sure that you can save all your files there. Do not save to the desktop, do not save to a flash drive, save to the D drive and then move the files when you're done. It is very, very important because these files are going to be big. Also, because it's going to scan slowly, do not bump the table. It actually can make a difference. Now, normally the document type is reflective. That basically means a piece of paper. Now we're going to change it to film. Great. Now it's going to ask you what type of film. Is it a color negative film? Is it positive film? Or is it black and white negative film? For both of our examples, we're using black and white negative film. It's very, very common. If you're working with something like a transparency, like for an overhead projector, that would be a color positive. Otherwise, it's going to be a color negative. Just remember, you've got to set the settings, whether it's going to be black and white negative, or color positive. All right, these are black and white negatives. Now it's going to ask you what type of grayscale you want. You have 16-bit grayscale or 8-bit grayscale. If you're doing color, you've got 48-bit color or 24-bit color. I'm going to take a moment to explain the difference between 8 and 16, 24 and 48. Ignore all other settings. Most of the images that we work with are in 24-bit color. That's 16 million colors. You can save those files as JPEGs or PNGs or TIFFs or whatever you like. If you go from 24-bit color to 48-bit color, then you're dealing in the billions and billions of colors. There is no 48-bit JPEGs. You can't save it. You'd have to save it as a TIFF or a PNG. Generally, we're going to save in 24-bit color because for the most part, that's what we're working with. If what I said makes you upset because you're like, I want to work in 48-bit color, if you know how to work in 48-bit color, by all means do. I'm just saying is if you're not sure and you're scanning in color, 24-bit color is the normal type of color you're working with. With black and white, it's a little bit different. With 8-bit grayscale, that's what I'm talking about, you've got 256 shades of gray. And with that, you can save, JPEGs or PNGs and TIFFs. If you're dealing with scientific data, which I would hope you're not dealing with down here because I can't tell you whether or not these scanner beds are clean or scratched, so please don't do critical analysis on our scanners. But if you were trying to look for even more data, more shades of gray, you could go to 16-bit grayscale, which would give you 64,000 shades of gray. The problem is you can't save that as a JPEG. You'd have to save that as something like a PNG or a TIFF file. And just understand that when you're in 16-bit grayscale or 48-bit color, a lot of programs don't know what to do with those types of files, or even programs that do, like Photoshop, may actually have fewer options or fewer settings because the program has limitations when using these high color modes. Again, we're going to work with 8-bit grayscale because for the most part, that's what people scan in. But you can do whatever you like. I'm just trying to give you some friendly advice along the way. All right, 8-bit grayscale. Now resolution is going to be tricky because in this case, instead of like we're used to using like 300 DPI or 600 DPI for prints, remember these are much, much smaller. So we're going to try to push this a lot further up. And if you'll notice, you can go all the way up to 12,800. To be honest with you, I don't think you'll be able to reliably scan more than 2,400 DPI, even on our largest scan. So I would view this as the top end. So we'll try that, understanding that it may crash or make a very, very big file. The rest of this, you'll notice, is turned off, which is exactly what we want it to be. However, I definitely want to uncheck thumbnail here. Matter of fact, when you go to use the software, I may have already turned that off. Thumbnail is a very tricky thing in this software, and it's more likely to crash the software than not. So we uncheck thumbnail and we click the preview button. And then all of a sudden, it is going to come over here, run the scanner, and over here, it's going to run the scanner as well. The trick to the thumbnail button is if the thumbnail button is selected, it's going to try to detect where all the images are on the scanner bed, and that can wreak all sorts of havoc. And again, it is best not done. Matter of fact, you really want to think about scanning things one image at a time until you get really more advanced and understand how this program deals with multiple images. One at a time is going to be good enough. So there it is. There is the image. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. Notice that there's nothing selected on my screen. And if there was anything selected on my screen, I could come over here and I could click the erase button, which would get rid of all the selections. As a matter of fact, if I had multiple selections on the screen, I could come over here and click erase, erase, erase until they're all gone. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to draw a rectangle that is larger than my negative. Notice, by the way, it was a negative, now it's a positive. It's going to preview the way you tell it to. So I'm going to make sure it's larger than I need it to be. And then I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to hit scan. Now, when I hit scan, it's going to ask me a question. It's going to say, where do you want to put it? Defaults to desktop, bad desktop. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to actually set it to other. And I'm going to browse to my folder. And I already have a folder on the D drive, which you always want to make sure that you do. And there's me. All right, I'm going to put it there. It's going to ask me what do I want the file to be called. I can call it whatever I want. And then it's going to ask you what type of file format you want. I would not recommend, if you're going through all this hassle, to save as a JPEG file and lose some of your data. Instead, I would recommend that you save it as a TIFF file, not a multi-TIFF file, a regular TIFF file. And this TIFF file is going to be great because it is going to be uncompressed, it's going to be big, and it's going to have all the data. I can leave everything else as is, and I click on OK, and it's going to start scanning my image. And let's see how long it's going to take to scan this image. It'll give you a countdown in a moment. So the first thing it's gonna do, it's gonna move over to where the scan begins, and then it's gonna tell you that it's scanning. And again, do not bump the table. It makes a difference. 3 minutes remaining. All right, let's watch those 3 minutes go by. And you can hear the scanner retracting, which means that right now all it's doing is saving, which means technically it is safe to bump the table. And it's done. It shows right here. If I double click on it, there it is. Beautiful, beautiful, high resolution. And it looks like it's backwards, but don't worry, we can flip it. After all that careful time. All right, let's do it again. And this time we'll do it with the other. And again, notice I can put it either top or bottom, it doesn't matter. Close it. Now there are going to be no settings to change whatsoever. How do I know this? Because it's still a black and white film negative, 8-bit grayscale, 2400 DPI. And I don't want to hit scan. That would be a mistake because it would scan that part. Instead, I need to hit preview again. So a quick scan of the entire bed. Then you'll notice that there's a box over here, which is not the box I want. So I'm gonna hit erase, and then I'm gonna draw a new box over here, which is the box I want. It's very, very dark. And then I'm gonna hit scan. And I don't need to change any settings from last time because they're the right ones. And it's probably gonna take another 3 or 4 minutes. All right, now that one's done. Let's do it one more time, but this time we're actually gonna do it without a holder so you can see some of the issues that you're gonna need to deal with. The first one is that it's very large. So when we put it down, we wanna make sure we're not blocking that strip that we need to put it by. And the second thing is if we tried to scan this at 2400 DPI, I bet you it would crash. So let's try to lower this to, let's say, 1200 DPI, and even that might be too much. Let's come back over here. Let us drop the resolution. And again, this is an X-ray, so we're not gonna call this a negative. We're gonna call this just a positive film. And yes, erase the current image, because an X-ray doesn't get reversed, it's just grayscale. And I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna say that it's 1200 DPI, and I'm gonna hit preview again. Now let's see what this does. All right, so there is the foot, and it says post-reduction. Now, I don't have to scan, I just wanna make sure I scan this from here to here. I don't have to worry about the other part. And yes, it's a little crooked, but I can fix that in post if I have to. And then I come over here and I hit scan, and I pray that it does not take 3 weeks. How long does it say it's gonna take? All right, how long do you think it's gonna take? 3 minutes, not bad. In the meantime, let's take our film out of these carriers and put them back away. Pop that one closed, pop this one closed. So we have the 2 carriers here, and I'm gonna put them right in this carrier right there. It is affixed to the side of the computer, so it should always be here for you. Oh look, now it's 5 minutes. Not surprising, it is a large item. All right, so let's take a look at our first image. Obviously it's upside down. I'll do a quick image rotation 180 degrees. And obviously if we look towards the background, we see things are reverse. So I'm gonna go to image rotation, flip canvas horizontal. And now we can see the date is, what is that date? Well, let me zoom in, see if I can read what it says. I think that does say 1953. There it is, that's pretty interesting. Now let's zoom out again and let's take a look at one other thing that's gonna be very useful before I just save and let you continue. I'm gonna go to image adjustments levels. Levels is going to give me a histogram from absolute white to absolute black. This little spike of white is probably the border. So if I come over here and drag this way, you'll see that it gets much clearer. And this little spike of black here is probably this border. And if I bring it down over here, we're going to come over this way. I love this part of the job. And then of course you can redistribute things accordingly to change what sort of contrast you like. And if I go and check the preview, what I had, what I have, there's an enormous amount of data here. Let me click OK on that, and then I'm going to save a copy. Save a copy on my computer, and then I can decide to save it as another TIFF file, which will be completely uncompressed and make my life a lot easier. Beautiful. So that is the first one. And we can take a look to see how big the file is. Yes, there's other things you can do about cropping and rotating, but that isn't for right this moment. Let's take a look at the second image that I scanned in. Now this image here, this actually probably wasn't a negative. Let's rotate that 90 degrees counterclockwise and zoom in a little bit. Yeah, this probably was not a negative, which means let me come back and do it right the way it was. Image, adjustments, invert. This is probably the way it used to look. And then of course, wow, there's a lot of weirdness to this image. So we'll go back to image adjustments levels and realize that it's probably all from here to here and from here to here. That's probably what the specimen actually looks like. And again, I could crop if I needed to. And you get a sense of all those scratches because we've been playing with this for so long as part of our demo process. Lastly, I'm not going to save that. Let's take a look at the one we just made. This one, let's take a look at this foot. There it is. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? And it looks really, really good, but it may be slightly softer than it should because it was right up against the glass. And if you see ever these really strange ring patterns that circulate outward, that's called Newton's rings, and it's from having two surfaces that are touching in a very particular way that cause an interference pattern. But this looks really, really good. And again, if I were to zoom out and again adjust the levels, I could say it probably goes from data-wise from here to here, and that is just gorgeous. Not the foot, I mean the scan. Anyway. Oh, you wanted to see what happens if I needed to straighten it. One of my favorite tools is the straightening tool. You come over here to the crop tool, you click the straighten button, and then literally you just drag a straight line right on the line that's crooked, and it literally automatically straightens the whole image. And that's what you do there. Anyway, a couple more things we have to do right now to actually put everything away. You've got your digital images. You can play with them all you want. You can watch my other tutorials on digital images. But I want to make sure that we shut down our workstation and we put our scanner back together as cleanly as we can so that it's good for the next user. All right, I already put away the two film holders, but I've got two more things to do before we're actually done. First, make sure you don't forget, well, don't forget your negative. First, make sure that you don't forget this adapter right here. We don't want to lose this. We've had some people try to slide them over here. That's not where it goes. It goes right into the bag diagonally, and then you can even zip up the bag if you like to make sure that it's nice and good for the next person. Perfect. Next, we need to put this other piece back on. And these get pretty beat up, I'm not gonna lie. This can be a little challenging at first, but we're gonna do it really straightforward. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the front two tabs and I'm gonna slide them under all the way up. Then I'm gonna, with them all the way up, I'm gonna slide the other two rear tabs in, and that's it. The front tab should be fine, and the back tab should be fine as well. So again, you slide in the front, and then you slide in the back, and then it stays there, and it should be good to go. Thank you again for watching this entire training series. I understand it's a lot. We really want to make sure that you can scan in your own transparent media here at the Freedman Center for Digital Scholarship at the Collaborative Library at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. If you have any questions, if there's items missing, there's items broken, you're not quite sure about something, make sure to email freedmancenter@case.edu, and we will do our best to replace what's missing, fix what's broken, and help you as soon as we can. My name's Jared. Again, thank you for watching.